I see 5 good reasons to care about what's happening in the Middle East. First of all, there are an awful lot of people there. There are about 500 million people in the greater Middle East, and it's a remarkably young population. In some countries, over 60% of the population is under the age of 30. So some of these countries are going to double in population by 2050. So anything that happens in the Middle East, and we've certainly seen a lot of things happening there in the past year, is going to affect millions of people. Second reason you ought to care about the Middle East is because it's a critical source of energy supplies, and the world economy still runs on fossil fuels. That may not be a good thing, but it's not going to change rapidly. And that means if there was a significant disruption in oil or gas flowing from the Middle East, you would immediately notice it as the price went up. A third reason to care about the Middle East is it has been a potent arena for international conflict. The United States has fought 2 wars in the Middle East. In fact, you could say 2.5 if you count our intervention in Libya. We have security partnerships with Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and some other countries, which means if any of those countries get into trouble, the United States could get dragged into it. And finally, we've seen a confrontation for the last decade or so with Iran over its nuclear program, which could easily lead to conflict, which would then affect energy supplies. So, third reason you have to worry about it is the potential for conflict and how that could affect all of us in various parts of the world. Number 4 is terrorism. Al-Qaeda has its origins in the Middle East, and although the Middle East is not the only place where terrorist groups arise, it has clearly been a reaction to both political conditions there, but also a reaction to the actions of outside powers like the United States throughout the region. And I think the last reason that people ought to care about the Middle East is the potential for political change that we are now seeing. Until this past year, the greater Middle East had largely lagged behind the rest of the world in terms of gender equality, spread of democracy, human rights. That's beginning to change, and if that experiment eventually succeeds, it will have enormous positive effects on people in the Middle East, but also people elsewhere around the world. If that experiment fails, on the other hand, I think the potential for trouble inside those countries, but also the potential for international conflict grows. You add all of those things together, and it seems to me that you ought to pay a lot of attention to what's going on in that very interesting part of the world.